Give me one reason to stay here, then I'll turn right back around. Give me one reason to stay here, then I'll turn right back around. Said I don't wanna leave you alone now. You gotta make me change my mind. Baby, I've got your number, and I know that you got mine. You know that I call you, I call too many times. You got to call me, baby. You can call me anytime. You got to call me. Give me one reason to stay here, then I'll turn right back around. Give me one reason to stay here. Oh, I'll turn right back around. Said I don't want to leave you alone now. You better make me change my mind.
Warning: this podcast features adult subject matter, adult language, and things not meant for children to hear. Viewer discretion is advised. You've been warned. Backstreet Boys be damned. We are live, ladies and gentlemen, here on the I'm No Joe YouTube channel. Thank you very much for tuning in with us to the latest episode of the I'm No Joe podcast, the place where every armchair quarterback can feel like an Eddie Bravo. Thank you, folks, for tuning in. Tonight, we have a very interesting, for lack of a better term, show for you this evening. As is the case with most of the last few weeks, we have got all of the news and recent events, fight announcements, and whatnot that have come down the line, even though it's been sort of a trickle the last week or so. But we also, this weekend, have one man to thank for the entertainment that we do have this wonderful weekend. One of the greatest Americans that we have, Uncle Chael himself. But we'll get into that in just a little bit. Before we get too far ahead of ourselves, take a moment here. Thank the fine folks who are willing to come along on this crazy train that is the I'm No Joe show and break down the shenanigans and shit talk for you wonderful folks along with me. First and foremost, the freshest guest a man could ask for, Mr. Fresh 03 himself. How are you doing this evening, sir?
I'm doing okay. Got a player I really liked in the draft, and I got a player I was only okay with. So I figure I'm walking out ahead of the game here in the draft.
Yeah.
So.
It's going to be
Don't
interesting.
worry, guys. I am keeping an eye on picks. Nice. So when things come up, if you don't spot them, I'll let you know.
Very nice, very nice. And yeah, for those who don't know, those who are just listening, I do have to apologize to those of you who are actually watching. We are actually starting a little bit later than normal this evening. Not that we ever start on time per se, but we are later than normal this evening because the NFL draft is going live with the first ever virtual draft, and it has absolutely been a sight to see unfold. So we actually did get a little bit distracted. We are running a little bit late. For that, I do apologize for those of you that are here live. For those of you listening, you won't notice that, but I'm going to tell you anyway because we're kind of transparent around here. But across the octagon, as it were, from me, more often than not, my Wednesday night compatriot, my combat talk homeboy here, my brother from another mother, and shit talking the one and only Golf T Vapes. How you doing, sir?
Not too bad. Glad we have something to look forward to this weekend and possibly some stuff in the near future, depending on what continues to play out with this reunion tour.
I agree. Do want to say hi to Sin out there in the chat, even though YouTube is dropping the ball hard on the notification levels. But I do want to say, even though it has been a very strange week thanks to the reunion tour, we didn't get any massively crazy news as a result of it. We do have some semi-expected things to talk about here. We do have some kind of surprising things to talk about here. So we will jump right into it. The first thing I want to talk about here, like I say, I try and give everybody in the world of combat sports as equal coverage as I can here. So we did get the official announcement this week that the PFL has officially suspended their entire 2020 season, because they are the only MMA organization that actually works the year throughout like a quote-unquote traditional sports team does, or a sports organization does. They have your regular season, they have your playoffs, and then your finals, and then your quote-unquote Super Bowl-esque final for the $1 million, as it were. They have put the entire year on hold. They are not even going to try and get everything back into place. They do say they are still going to try and get events held once the Backstreet Boys are back in check, all right? But the way that they calculate their season just isn't going to be feasible this year, so it's going to be interesting to see how they recover from this, because very little doubt that they were going to come back. But their whole kind of shtick, their niche, if you will, in the MMA world is that they have a regular season. Your regular season stats matter because that will get you into the playoffs, and then the playoffs will lead you to the big dance where you get the chance for your $1 million per division prize with PFL. Going to be neat to see how they pull back from that and figure out what they're going to do, if they're still going to do the $1 million per division this year, if they're going to have, sub-sanctioned rules, if they're going to modify the season itself once we find out when everything can start to get rolling again, like the NFL, like the MLB, like all the other major sports organizations are starting to do. If they're going to try and taper their schedule and reroute it, I don't know. It's going to be neat to follow. Coming off of that, we found out that, kind of to tie into this, we found out this week that literally the day before UFC Brasilia happened, the last Fight Night UFC promotion that happened, and the first of the series of promotions that were still able to go on with no crowds, that event literally only got to happen by one day, and that one day was bought by the UFC negotiating with the Brazilian government. Since then, they have basically locked down the country. Brazil got hit pretty hard with Backstreet Boys. They kind of thought they were going to early on, which is why we almost didn't get the Brasilia event to begin with. And then when we did, there was no crowd there to be had. They have since locked everything down and intend to stay locked down and are going to ride this reunion tour out. So they officially announced this week that, even though we kind of suspected it, it is now official. UFC 250 will not be taking place down in Brazil. They have no plans to reopen any large organized gatherings, let alone put on sports broadcasts, the likes of even the more narrowed version that we saw in Brasilia. No plans for any of that until the fall at the earliest. So any summer fun we might have gotten to see in South America from the UFC or anything really, unfortunately, officially nixed as of right now.
Packers just traded up.
Ooh, interesting.
They took Jordan Love. Not a fan.
Did they take Jordan Love?
Yeah.
Roger's gonna be pissed.
I was gonna say,
It's all right. That kid's
He's
not
gonna
good.
be a little bit of a diva.
Roger's got nothing to worry about. I think that's a wasted draft choice. They could have picked him up in the second round.
yeah, that's
He reminds him. He's calling Kaepernick with a better intermediate touch. Take it, which I mean, it's not a bad thing.
I was going to
Colin
say that's
Kaepernick
not.
was
Yeah,
one of the
there's
better
way worse
quarterbacks
things
in the
to
league
be.
for a couple of years till he got
Absolutely,
hurt.
absolutely.
So there we go.
Yeah.
Interesting to see how that shakes out.
We'll see. Well, only time will tell. I think they could have picked him up in the second, though.
I agree that I think that was a bad first round pick.
It depends
for sure.
on who was coming up. It depends on who was coming up and who was looking at trading up, because you know the chatter is always going on this stuff.
True.
I'm just saying they need a fucking offensive line more than they need a backup quarterback.
But to get back to UFC 250, I mean, if they still want to run it, I mean, they've got a contract with that casino.
Right. Well,
They
that's
can probably get an exemption at this point.
yeah. That's kind of what we were suspecting initially that they were going to end up doing, because that actually ties into the next part here, which is all kind of one big conglomerate at this point. Obviously, the UFC announced this week. The UFC themselves actually announced this week they have officially nixed the card for UFC Fight Night Lincoln, UFC Fight Night Oklahoma City, UFC 250, UFC Fight Night San Diego, and then a UFC that was unnamed and unlocated as of right now in the end of June. This is kind of what we suspected here. All the locations of the shows that we anticipated seeing are kind of falling through as this reunion tour kind of really sweeps the world up with it. But now we also do know that May 9th is officially a go somewhere in Florida. We haven't gotten the exact location, only that it is in Florida. Last we have been updated. So we do have the location for the May 9th event, which they are referring to now officially again as UFC 249, the second billing.
It's going to be in Jacksonville.
Oh, did they officially announce Jacksonville?
They did announce Jacksonville.
Interesting. I did not catch the Jacksonville, only that we were in Florida. So, okay. So we're looking at Jacksonville, which, I mean, kind of
makes sense. Florida's been granting exceptions.
Yeah.
So we might be seeing a bunch of UFC events in Florida.
At least they've got a spot for it. For the time being, unless somebody decides they want to call Disney and get Mickey Mouse involved again, because
right,
God knows that's a possibility.
Well, and the interesting thing about it is I'm not sure how much truth there is to it now that everything has kind of been etch-a-sketch shaken and then redrawn. But if you remember, when they were initially talking about it before they had not before, but after the Ditachi Palace had been announced and then canceled, Dana White was still saying that the place that he has for the next event after that, their quote-unquote backup place, for those of you listening, air quotes, that they had that place locked up for 2 solid months so that they can do an every week promotion down there. Plus, they were working on the island. So I'm not sure if now it was Dana trying to say that he had Tachi's Palace locked up for 2 months and he was ready to do the fights out in California for 2 months, or if maybe this
he
place
only had Tachi Palace for like a month.
That's what I was thinking. So maybe it was this place that he was talking about that he's basically been backdoor dealing with DeSantis and whoever the fuck else he needed to lock down a backup place in case Tachi's Palace fell through. We might get to see a couple weeks worth of UFC down in Florida if knock on fucking wood, we can make it through the next 2 weeks without anything massively drastic and crazy happening. This might be the path back to us getting events again, even if, again, they are, crowdless.
So, it's going to be Florida in Jacksonville on May 9th at the ViStar Veterans Memorial Arena in Jacksonville.
Interesting indeed. Apologize, not the Backstreet Boys. It's allergies. Calm down.
Speaking of venues, the UFC did apply for a licensing for Fight Island as a name.
I saw that they have officially filed for the copyright licensing for. I'd say it was a two-parter. It was they filed for the copyright and the trademark rights to Fight Island and UFC Fight Island both, and were granted both. So the marketing is in the works. It looks like whether Florida is the location we see for a couple weeks or not, the island idea, Mortal Kombat is fucking happening. Like, we're full steam ahead regardless of what fucking Mickey and Captain ESPN decide that they want to do. Fight Island is going ahead here, so that's kind of interesting to see as well.
Definitely going to be interesting to see how this all plays out over the next couple of months.
Right? No shit. Two-part story here. Update specifically leading into these upcoming events, and then the subsequent now second coming of UFC 249 down in Jacksonville coming up in a couple weeks here. Two fighters that I was actually very excited to see both fights for on May 9th to UFC 249 second coming card have both now been removed from that card. The first of which was Lyman Good, who was removed from that card back a couple weeks ago, and we now have found out why, because in the meanwhile, they had just said that he had to pull out due to potential conflicts. They didn't give any details. Well, we know what that conflict was, and that conflict was the Backstreet Boys. He had been positively confirmed and then subsequently hospitalized because of the Backstreet Boys. He caught it. He was down with the sickness. But the good news, not only did he beat it and is back to quote-unquote normal, and it is ready as of this next coming Monday to officially get back to training to hopefully, obviously not for 249, but hopefully be ready to go when the UFC puts on its next big promotion so that he can get back in it. Says that his body was not too terribly damaged, just short-term holy shitness. So, you know, hopefully that is actually the extent of what it was. And, you know, nice to hear, again, some positive stories coming out about people making it through the craziness that this is, because those don't get a lot of coverage right now. Ironic
All I
that
gotta
it
say
took...
is, oh, wow.
Right. A little ironic that it took a literal cage fighter to be one of the first big examples of a guy who can go through and come back out and then, you know, get back to some semblance of, air quotes, normal once it's all said and done. But we live in strange fucking times, so strange news isn't really that strange anymore. The other part of that story, the one that I'm really bummed about, obviously I still am bummed about not getting to see Lyman Good. I think that guy's got a hell of a fucking future, especially if this, you know, reunion didn't really do too much of a number on him and he can get back to it. But the other fight that I know a lot of us were legitimately looking forward to, one of the more realistic equal fights on what's going to be the 249 second coming card. The Lioness herself announced this week Amanda Nunes is out of May 9th. She just is not comfortable with what is now, because of everything going on, going to be essentially a somewhat short camp, because she had been booked and unbooked and booked and unbooked so many times in the last couple weeks with all this. She is not willing to defend her title on what would be a short notice camp.
I mean,
It
that's fair enough.
sucks, but it has to be acknowledged as well that this is a circumstance beyond anybody's control. Nobody chose it to go down this way, and you can't be mad at a champion not wanting to risk their championship on a short notice, not full camp development. They aren't giving a chance to show their championship levels, and as much as it sucks, I kind of get it, and I think this one actually gets a little bit of a free pass for a back out on a fight.
And you know, if it's Amanda Nunes, if there was any off chance that she could come in normal out of a camp, like she
Right.
totally would have taken this fight. 'cause
Yeah,
she just loved
she's
beating
one
people
that
up.
we know isn't going to shy away from a challenge unless there's no way that she can make it at her best to that challenge, which is exactly what she's saying here. So I mean, it's not like she ran to Russia last minute knowing she was going to get locked in and then, quote unquote, couldn't get out. She is here. She's staying here. She's telling us why she can't make it. And it's an understandable request. So, as shitty as it is to get one of the reasons we were looking forward to this May 9th card knocked out, that also does give a little bit more wiggle room for what we were talking about. That main card needed some adjustment in. Hopefully, maybe now we get to see it, even though we are still going to get to see Ferguson versus Gaethje for some fucking reason for another interim belt officially.
I mean, that's also not their fault either.
Right.
I think Khabib went back to Russia, called up Putin, and said, "Hey, can we close the borders? I'm not going to make weight this time."
Yeah, this isn't going to happen. So let's just make
it. Like, did you bring belt?
Right.
Yes, I've got the belt with me. Okay.
Lock it down. Yeah, I agree.
I don't want to touch that with a 10-foot pole because it pisses me off the more I think about it.
Right.
I'll talk all the shit I want about Khabib. Come wrestle fuck me, dude.
Right. Yeah, no shit.
Oh, you can't.
Yeah, well, I mean, he can in September-ish. Oh, interesting little piece of news here. Kind of a good portrait, I would say, or a good glimpse into one of the larger differences between the way large combat sports organizations are going about this reunion time that we're living in right now. If you look over at UFC, Dana White is doing Dana White things. He is trying to lock down casinos in California. He is taking on, arenas in Florida. He is building Mortal Kombat Island. He is offering to use the Apex Legends facilities in UFC's backlot from the Performance Institute. He is doing everything and anything he can to get a fight tomorrow for people to watch. And then you look over to the other side of the field here, and you've got Scott Coker and Bellator, who announced this week that sometime between late June and early July, they plan to bring Bellator back completely crowdless for the rest of the year for safety precautions, and they're going to be hosting it on a soundstage recording studio in Hollywood, so that it can be completely controlled, completely regulated, properly broadcast, but done safely and viewer-free in the immediate area. I mean, I get it. It's absolutely one way to go about it, and especially when you've got someone as loud and as upfront as Dana going the public opposite direction. I think it might work if they do it properly. I just think that this might be waiting a little too long, especially if the UFC gets back out and they've got multiple shows done before then.
I mean, I get it. I get why they're doing it. I mean, if you're gonna, you have to wait on California. Number one, that's the big thing. You have to wait on California. If you're going to do this in a sound stage and you want your broadcast level to look that high quality, you have to wait on the state government, and they have already pushed everything out into June in California. So.
Yeah, I mean, and so with that they may or may not even push it out farther, depending on where their curve sits. How long the line is to get into the reunion, it's all going to depend, because at this point, I don't know that they're going to be able to pull that off like that in California unless they're doing it on a soundstage on tribal land somewhere.
Right.
You guys know of any of those?
Yeah, right. Awfully
Well, they
convenient.
already had one lined. They already had one lined up. They had to have the state. They had to have the governor, and they had to have Donald Trump call the casino to be like, "Hey, yo, don't do this." Like Dana was going ahead. They already had it.
I know Dana was, but I'm talking Bellator.
Right.
Do they have a spot like that? Because
I'm sure
Mohegan Sun.
I'm betting Dana would let him use Mortal Kombat Island if it gets built up in time.
Well, and that's one of the interesting things that I actually wanted to talk about here is that now that we know that this is more than just a funny joke for those of us that are insiders to talk about, like, this is a real thing. Like, Dana White is confirmed. Like, this is more than just a rumor or something to, keep talk going. He supposedly has a real legitimate island that has legitimate infrastructure and a fight arena being built on it right now, so that over the summer, regardless of what else happens internationally, there's a Mortal Kombat Island to hold real broadcastable fights on.
Yep.
And I wonder how much the premium that they're going to charge them to use it.
That's what I was going to say. Now, if that's the only place that fights can be happening like this, aside from, 9 guys in a fucking grain silo in Spokane somewhere, like, are they going to start offering, or would other organizations start inquiring about using Mortal Kombat Island to hold fights? Because, ONE FC has got a fucking roster and a half. Bellator's got a full fucking roster, Invicta's got a pretty fucking stacked roster. PFL's got a whole bunch of people and no season of 2020 to go right now. If they get Mortal Kombat Island built and fully operational, would this potentially be the catalyst to maybe see some cross promotion if we start getting these other guys bringing their whole shows there? You're gonna have talent bumping into each other. You're not gonna build a 10 times size UFC Performance Institute on a fucking island somewhere in 2 weeks and have it operational enough to separate the people like they do in Las Vegas. People are gonna see each other on an island.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I knew where the island was. I wish we had some idea kind of what it looks like and what the infrastructure is going to be.
Or at least a degree of how big it's going to be, so we know what to kind of anticipate. Like, I get the secrecy, but like...
If you think that the infrastructure for fights is already there because the UFC is going to be using this, it has to be cheaper than renting a Hollywood soundstage.
Right.
And dragging all your shit all over the place. If you're using the UFC's Fight Island, it's got to be cheaper because all you got to do is bring your
people down,
bring your people and your mat covers, and that's all you got to do.
Yeah, because everything else would be ready. The same. He said that there's going to be a sanctioning body athletic commission presiding over the island, just like they do with the tribal lands. Same scenario. It's not tied to any particular country, but it is independent and it is a sanctioned governing body, just like on tribal lands for the casino fights. Same type of scenario. So everything but exactly your canvas covers for the fucking mats, and then your crew, your personnel, will be ready for Fight Island.
Yeah, I mean that's
the only.
And I mean for a lot of the little smaller organizations, I mean it's gonna be a much better situation.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
With the quality of equipment that's going to be there compared to what you're normally working with, like it's gonna take your stuff to the next game. I mean, Dana would be a fool to just let his people use it.
Right.
Like you totally got to rent out Mortal Kombat Island.
That's because that's almost promotion unto itself, just to rent out Mortal Kombat to other organizations to put fights on.
The other side to that though is he may not want to, because guess what? If they can't find a place to host, we put them in the dirt by everybody only has one option to choose from.
Yeah, when you're the only game in town, you can determine who, what, where, when, and how much everything is.
That's right. You can take your ball and go home at any point you want.
This is very true as well. And that's kind of what I'm wondering, is because as much as we are all fucking eternal optimists in this sense of it, at least, and want to see the best of everybody fight the best of everybody, regardless of what fucking paper you signed, I want to see the best guys fight the best guys in all divisions, all fucking sports, all styles. That's the ideal thing, I think, of most combat sports fans, is that we want to see the best compete against the best. We want to see who's the best and how they are the best. How do they get to be the best? How do they confirm they're the best? But you can't really do that if you put fences in the middle of the fucking playground and you won't let Johnny play with Timmy because he signed with Dana instead of Scott. Like, I'm kind of hoping that, at least to some degree, Mortal Kombat Island might be the catalyst that we all want to just get everybody in the same fucking pot, stir the start the stoop together. Everybody can play. It could be okay. Hopefully. But
Yep. Wishful thinking.
yeah, I was gonna say we all know what assuming can get you, so we're gonna have to wait and see how it actually plays out in the long run.
The Ravens just stole Patrick Queen from the rest of the NFL. Like there's no way he should have lasted as long as he just did. There's no flipping way.
Interesting.
Anyway,
so one last little piece of news I do want to go over here before we get into the namesake topic, reason for the season, meat and potatoes, as it were, of this particular episode. Unfortunately, a little bit of a downer news, but not entirely. It's complicated. A couple weeks ago, we saw a matchup where a gentleman did a thing in the octagon that we all pretty much at this point know that you should never do. And if you're gonna do, you do it very briefly, you make it very, very obvious what you're doing, you get the ha-has from it, and then you move the fuck on. This particular gentleman did not do this thing that I'm talking about in that particular manner, and it cost him. What I'm referring to here is Ian Kutalaba's matchup a couple weeks ago, where he fainted or faked being rocked, pretended to wobble, and referee Kevin McDonald thought that he was really hurt, jumped in and stopped the fucking match. To which, obviously Kutalaba immediately protested. His opponent, took the W, but said, hey, you don't want to lose like that, don't play like that. Which is fair, I get, but at the same time, fuck off. Get the entire fuck out of here. He didn't get dropped. He didn't get rocked. He barely got clipped with one hook when he did the fucking, pretend move. And then they ruled it a stoppage. They kept it a TKO. Well, fast forward a little bit. Obviously, the UFC saw that for what it actually was and understood that this was an in-the-moment stoppage. Upon watching back on the replay, which you can from 9,000 different camera angles now, it is very, very clear and apparent. Ian Kutalaba was doing a very poor job of I think it looks, maybe, nope, I got my sound settings on OBS still tripped out. Or do I? Nope, they were right the first time. Son of a bitch. Technical difficulties. Okay, so now we should have sound back. I don't know why it just freaked out on the sound side. Okay, says stream health is good over here. OBS
we look
seems to
good.
be back. I see all of us. OBS is picking up sound again. Okay, so folks, I apologize. I'm not really sure what happened there. Somebody said that the feed cut out. My OBS seemed to blink there, and I had to get some settings back. But so I'm not sure how much of my rant that I was starting on there that you guys caught. So I'm just gonna briefly run back over real quick. We'll finish this up. We'll wrap up. We'll let you guys get the fuck out of here. Basically, a couple weeks ago, we saw Ian Kuntalaba, spelled Ion Kutlaba, which is fucking weird unto itself, in a match where he tried to do a thing that has been done successfully many times before, beautifully. Anderson Silva specifically is a fucking master of it, or was to a certain point. But he tried to go in and basically play the fucking, ooh, I'm hurt, wobbly, don't fucking hurt me anymore, to sucker his opponent in to get close. And when he did that, referee Kevin McDonald didn't see from the angle that he was at that Ian was playing, and thought that he was genuinely wobbled, and stopped the fight 34 seconds into the first round based on what he saw and presumed was an injured, unable to defend himself fighter. Well, obviously, in the moment, as soon as the stoppage happened, Ian Kutalaba famously, literally turns in the moment to referee Kevin McDonald and goes, "What?" with one of the greatest what the fuck faces ever caught on fucking camera, and then immediately turns around to anyone that kind of to verify to himself and everyone else, like, is this a joke? Like, what the fuck? Like, I didn't get hit. He didn't actually tag me with anything. Like, I'm joking. I'm playing. Like, what do you mean you're stopping the fight? And to their credit, the UFC recognized what that was for the bad attempt that it was and immediately booked the rematch. A little unceremoniously, his opponent said, you play the game and the referee stops it and the referee stops it. It's not my job to make sure you're playing or not. It's just my job to fight till the referee stops. And to his credit, that's what he did.
Exactly what professional fighters do.
Yeah. But immediately the UFC saw that for what it was and booked that rematch right away. Those two are going to run that back. That will be settled once Backstreet Boys allow us to figure out what we're actually going to be working with here. But as I would absolutely encourage, and pretty much most professionals did encourage as well, as soon as that night was over, and that was, quote unquote, for those listening, in the books, Ian Kutalaba went immediately to the Virginia State Athletic Commission and filed an appeal on that decision as a TKO loss to, at best case scenario, get it ruled a no contest, disqualification, something that's not going to be an actual loss on his record for a 30-second TKO where he was standing looking at the referee that stopped him. We got the result of that appeal this week. Due to no foreseeable evidence of the referee's judgment being infringed upon or the result of the stoppage being untrue, the Virginia State Athletic Board has officially upheld the 39-second first round TKO stoppage, an official loss on the record of Ian Kutalaba. So, I mean, on one hand, this is really just a symbolic thing for show because, like we said, the UFC's already rebooked the match. They're going to run that back and actually fight. So we'll see how that fight genuinely plays out. But the shitty side is that now, like, there's not a whole lot that he can do to try and get this made right. Like, even if he wins the quote-unquote, I'm using air quotes for those listening, rematch, he still is 1-1 with this opponent, and he has an official loss on his record. That kind of sucks.
I mean, it kind of sucks for him. Everything that happened, it wasn't his fault.
Right.
Was he play acting too well? Not really. Like all of us that were watching them were like,
yeah, it wasn't that
like
convincing.
he's like is the dude wobbly? What did he get caught with? And then immediately we're like, oh, Anderson Silva.
Yep.
So,
the ding.
I have to play the heel here on this.
Oh shit!
Because I get
new kid here.
I don't know who the fuck that guy is, but I don't know. Looks like something out of a trailer park. Who knows?
What happened?
Playing the heel here because this definitely needs to be said. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. If you're going to do something like that and act like you're wobbled, don't get hit. Don't let him get close, because he did get touched, not hard, but he did get touched a couple times during that, which, from the referee's vantage point,
right? Yeah, it's understandable from the referee's point of view. The referee's the only one in this situation I feel is blameless in all of this. I completely 100% agree with Kevin McDonald in the situation because we saw there was a camera directly over his shoulder. So of the replays that we can now look at, you can basically see exactly what he saw. And from that point of view, I get it. Kevin McDonald was doing exactly what he was supposed to do. My problem with this is the precedent that it sets.
I'm in that same boat with you. The Athletic Commission sees every fucking angle the rest of us saw.
Yep.
How they didn't overturn this, I don't know. Whoever's on that Athletic Commission all lose their jobs. Go drink fucking potty water and eat moldy toast for breakfast, you cocksuckers.
To me, it probably should have been ruled a no contest.
That's exactly what I'm advocating for. I'm not saying this should be a fucking win by any stretch of the imagination. I just don't like that it's an official loss that can't be overturned now.
No.
He was throwing haymakers.
Yeah.
Like every time dude got close to him, he was throwing haymakers. Like he was.
I mean, they do that. They do that. They're gonna have 9-10 fighters of just the last 6 months run into an athletic commission trying to get a fight turn no contest. If they do it this one time for this particular situation, they're gonna have like 10 fighters come crash into the athletic commission.
Their job is to review fights.
Yeah, I was gonna say, but that's literally what they're supposed to be doing. That's what they're there to do.
And I can't even say that you're going to get that many fighters because this is, look, playing the heel.
This was blatant.
He played a stupid game. He won the stupid prize by getting the L.
Yep.
They didn't overturn it. However, I don't see that if them turning it over would have caused another 10 fucking fights to have this same outcome because this is a different type of thing. We don't see a lot of guys go in there and fake the I'm wobbled shit.
Right.
This is kind of a one, maybe a 2-off situation. Anderson Silva-esque of Anderson Silva's heyday, prior to the Chris Weidman catching his number.
Right.
But it's still, in all actuality, I don't feel bad for him with the loss. To be quite honest, it sucks because I know that's not the case. But at the same time, you're going to do something stupid. Unfortunately, the ref was not in the greatest position. He could have had a much better position. They're supposed to be on the side, not behind the fight. But, you know, when they're moving, he's trying to get to the side, shit like that happens.
Right.
So
and with them big boys like that, you don't want to get caught.
But yeah, I mean, like if you watch the fight, obviously all of us watched the fight, like a second before it stopped, dude threw a haymaker that was spot on.
Yeah.
Like if the ref had been paying attention and not like, if he'd actually been paying attention to what was going on and be like, okay, maybe I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. I have no earthly idea why. Like if you watch the fight, it's like why did it get stopped? Why did it get stopped at all? And I get you trying to protect the fighters, but neither of the fighters appeared to be in a situation where it resulted in where someone needed to step in.
Right.
Like if you were watching anything, and I guess we can rule it out to the ref being out of position or something like that.
The ref was clearly out of position, playing the heel here again. A lot of this does fall on McDonald, and I don't like to blame refs at all. I really don't, because they have the toughest job.
They do.
Of anybody, not out of the fighters, anybody. The ref has the toughest fucking job because shit like this pops up. Then their integrity comes into question. I'm not questioning his integrity. I want to make that very clear. He's a fantastic ref. We've seen him do great jobs before. Unfortunately, being out of position, but the one part where I will play devil's advocate on him, they know to be looking at the fighter's entire body.
Right.
Not just the top half that's wobbling. He could have looked down at his legs and saw that his legs were moving just fine, and he wasn't stiff.
Yeah.
The legs are one of the first things to go when you get lit up.
Yep.
Everybody knows that.
Well, and on that same note, because I said I will stick up for Kevin McDonald based on the decision he made, doesn't mean I'm not going to be critical of it as well. I agree with, based on what he saw, the decision that he made. But 100%, he was absolutely out of position for the fight that he was supposed to be refereeing in the moment. Had he been literally 180 degrees to where he was, he would have had straight down the fucking fight alley direction shot of what actually happened, and we wouldn't have had that stoppage to even talk about right now.
And here's the hard part with positioning. Those fighters were moving pretty fucking quick when that happened.
Yeah, exactly.
So he was in position initially. Like, if you go back and watch... When Kuntalaba started moving backwards there, he got behind him because he was trying to switch to the other side, and that's when he looked and thought he saw something that caused it to be over with. It was a bad transition period, for lack of better terms.
Yeah.
Like I said, but he was still out of position, so kind of chalk it up as his fault, but also you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes, you get a permanent L because Athletic Commission is, as RJ said, afraid to set a fucking precedent that might cause other fighters to think that this is acceptable to go and appeal.
Right.
Yeah. So I think we've learned some lessons here. Ref, be in position. You're a professional. Be in position. Fighter, if you want to take a chance like this, you're taking a chance.
Yeah, know your
And
consequences.
it's shown that you can pick up an L from faking the funk. 3, everybody be professionals. Do your fucking jobs.
Right. It really would have saved this entire situation from happening for the most part if everybody would have just literally done their fucking jobs and done what they were supposed to be doing in the moment there. I agree.
What's funny about that comes up a lot, I notice. When we're talking about a lot of these fucked up fight situations, it comes down to somebody not doing their job. Like when we see stoppages that shouldn't have been stoppages, or that are, well, I shouldn't say shouldn't be stoppages, are questionable.
Controversial, yeah.
Controversial, questionable, whatever you want to call them. The people doing their jobs, but at the same time, it's them not doing their jobs.
Right.
Because, part of that is judgment call. Part of that is, what was the fighter doing? Were they doing their job, protecting themselves at all times? It's funny how this keeps coming into play, but in a situation like this, where it's clear as day, I think, truly, to be honest here, the ones to blame the most right now are the fucking Athletic Commission and the fucking fighter. The fighter, look, play stupid games, you win stupid prize. Athletic Commission, look at the fucking footage. Don't have your head up your ass. You look like a bunch of fucking ostriches that are playing fucking head in the sand and don't want to look and fix something when it was clearly something that was an easy fix. You go, okay, no context. Bam, done.
Exactly.
See, I think that's my biggest problem. That's kind of why I wanted to talk about it here. It's not so much the situation, because clearly in the sport of MMA, especially when you're talking about some of the bigger guys like these gentlemen, strange shit like this is going to happen. It's unavoidable. You're not going to fucking stop weird instances like this from happening. My big problem with it, for the most part overall, is exactly what TJ's talking about here. It's the fucking Athletic Commission, because this isn't even the first time this year we have seen an Athletic Commission just drop the fucking ball in an epic proportion here. And in a year where we're already out so much thanks to the fucking reunion, we can't afford to have what we do have be fucked up because of a lack in professionalism on the commission side. There's always going to be fuckery in the ring. That's why guys fight for a living. But the commission, in my opinion at least, is supposed to be the step above that. It's your job to review things for a reason, because you're supposed to be better than the fuckery. And this being the second big fight commission fuck up, in my opinion, that we've seen so far, gets you a little nervous. Gets you a little... to say the least.
You know, with that thing being said, that there's so much with the commissions that we've seen that have gone awry. It's something that, to be honest, I wish there was another overseeing body over the commissions.
Agreed.
Like
some kind of regulatory body that can regulate the commissions. There's got to be a check and balance.
Yeah, a check and balance type system, similar to what we have in American politics. There is a check and balance there, albeit sometimes a little flawed. It's still there, but it's something that I honestly think they could do, and it would make the sport a lot better for not only the fighters, but also the fucking referees and everyone else who's involved. The other thing that bothers me about it is when they can't tell what a rope-a-dope is, there's a fucking problem.
Right.
Especially because a lot of these guys on the commissions started with where? Boxing. What is boxing famous for? Rope-a-dopes. There are plenty of those. Let the guy punch himself out till he gets tired, then knock his ass out. Same concept.
Yep.
Look, we get it. MMA is more dangerous because there's more weapons available. But still, you have to recognize a rope-a-dope from afar. That's just how it works.
So, like, isn't there a level at the? Isn't there should there be like a decision-making body within the UFC like independent within the UFC, if something like this comes up to turn over, and then it would go up to the athletic commission.
So
Like it seems like that would make more sense.
yes and no.
What?
Basically, the intermediate level there, like you're talking about, would be a contracted arbitrator. Arbitrator, that's the word I'm looking for. A contracted arbitrator, generally third party, so that they're impartial. But there isn't any step really between the actual commission themselves and the UFC other than a possible arbitrator. And there's no one to go in that same situation where if you have an issue with the commission to get an arbitrator to go beyond that. Commission is final stamp and seal.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, it is what it is.
Right.
It's,
the silver lining,
you're
I
all
would say.
professionals. You're all professionals. You know the fucking risks.
Right.
Do your fucking jobs.
If there could be such a thing in this situation, I would say the silver lining is that in the times that we're dealing with right now, making a decision this bad, this publicly, will undoubtedly impact the decision going forward for the company to come back. Same thing with Texas. Texas has one more potential chance as of the original schedule anyway, before all this fucking craziness came up. Only had one more chance for the year for the Texas Athletic Commission to fuck up again. And even then, Dana White had mentioned that if we see another situation, I think it was going to be in Houston or in San Antonio next time because it was Houston this time. He said that if we see another situation like we did over in Houston, then it'll be the last time you see the UFC in Texas. So we're getting to a point like you can't be fucking around anymore. So I would say if any good thing does come out of this, it would be that now that you guys have made your fuck up this public and stood behind it, like that lets us know exactly where you stand and where we should not go if we get an option in the future.
It seems like we're really weeding out what places we should and shouldn't be. I mean, look, New York, obviously. Texas is coming. There's some bad questions. And now this one here. What? That's 3 down. They're losing a fuck ton of revenue because of this. If the UFC decides to stop coming there, how many people are going to come to fucking San Antonio for an event like this when it's Cage Warriors Underground? Not going to be anywhere near as much as what the UFC is going to be. I'm just saying, they got to pull their shit together, all of them.
Yep, because you're on the fucking clock now. Like if you make a fuck up, it lives forever and everyone gets to see it. So you're just standing yourself out against the crowd as the one who's willing to make stupid public statements.
Especially at a time like we have currently, you have to make a damn good impression for somebody to want to come back, because with the way things are currently,
yeah, it's gonna go
this
crazy.
May be you burn your bridge and it's fucking over. There's no rebuilding it.
Yeah, it's gonna go crazy when the fucking the bars are finally lifted and everybody's free to fucking move about the cabin. It's gonna be insane, and somebody's gonna get a lot of money because there's gonna be a lot of big events going on. Maybe not in Texas, maybe not in New York, probably not in Virginia now. We'll see. But that will bring us once again, nicely, enjoyingly, back to what we haven't had in a little while, which is a meat and potatoes segment of this meat and potatoes portion of the show. This particular tasty dish is a fine example of American independence. Not giving a fuck when you're told you can't do something, as long as you can still safely do it to show that person, oh yeah. This particular time, in this particular moment, we are talking about a world that has been pensively held back, restrained against its will, for its own good, but restrained nonetheless, for weeks and weeks and weeks on end, and one man says no more. And that man is Mr. Chael Sonnen. And Submission Underground 13 is here to give us hope that even when the Backstreet Boys are staring you down, saying bye, 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 somebody can fix that situation for you. Whether it's in a grain silo with just enough people to make it happen, or it's in a Hollywood sound studio, words come out. It doesn't matter, because Uncle Chael is going to do it as long as it can be done. And thank goodness it's getting done this weekend. Submission Underground 13. EBI rule set. Submission only grappling in an octagon for posterity. This being, of course, 13, not like the other numbered thing that we're talking about because it was discovered in a certain year, but this being a 13 because it is actually the 13th of its kind. Submission Underground 13 being headlined by 3 particular matches that we are going to break down. Now, granted, this entire event is going to be absolutely filled with badasses in the grappling and jiu-jitsu world and is absolutely worth watching, aside from the fact that it is the only combat sports event we have going on right now. It is absolutely going to be spectacularly filled with some badasses from the combat sports world. But the 3 that we are going to talk about here for you fine folks before we get out of here this evening are the main event, the co-main event, and as it were, the, air quotes, people's main event, the prior to co-main event matchup here. So we will start with that people's main event, or people's co-main event matchup, the 3rd slot from the top, the quote-unquote main card as they used in the Submission Underground world. Everything other than these main fights is the prelim card. Still valid, but it is what it is. So what we are talking about here is Gabriel Checo, one of the most dangerous, middle-sized, I would say, physically statured, not any other way, calm down, black belts in the USA versus a man who's really starting to get the itch for Submission Underground, this being his 4th appearance now, Jake Ellenberger, who in his own right is very much a wrestling and grappling known gentleman. This particular situation, though, we have got a wrestler in Ellenberger versus a black belt jiu-jitsu monster in Gabriel Checo. We have seen Gabriel Checo out-wrestle wrestlers. We have seen him out-jiu-jitsu world-class jiu-jitsu players. So coming in here against Jake Ellenberger, who we have already seen is good at wrestling, but against some of these higher-level jiu-jitsu guys, it's a different kind of grappling. I can't help but think that we are going to see Ellenberger lose, but not necessarily go to overtime. I think he's going to definitely put up a struggle in his own right, but I don't think Checo is going to let him go to overtime and do the EBI reversal start-offs.
Yeah, Ellenberger may have bitten off more than he can chew on this one. Like, he's a crafty old bastard at this point. Like, he's going to sneak a brick in the ring somehow. But, yeah, he's got he's up against a monster. Padme's running around in here. Yeah, he's up against a straight up monster. And Zangief, they call him Zangief.
He bears the part too. Like he owns it.
Yeah, like this is. I think Jake will hold out fairly well. Like he might stick it out longer than we think, but I don't see too many ways that he could win this one.
I agree. I don't. Even if it does make it to overtime, I don't see this being a situation where they use the EBI 3 sets in the back and it comes down to escape versus defense time. I don't think Ellenberger's got what it takes to go full regulation and then overtime against a guy like Checo here.
Yeah, Checo's.
He's a monster.
He
really is.
I'll make this nice and easy. The only way Ellenberger has a chance is if it was an MMA rule set. This is not an MMA rule set, so he has no chance. And the only reason I would say he would have a chance then is because we knew what he could do when he was in the UFC.
Right, yeah, when he had MMA as a full skill set weapons.
Being as he doesn't have access to all of the other weapons he used to have, it's kind of a moot point where, as much as I hate to say it, he doesn't have a snowball's chance in hell.
Yeah, man. Do you have like Jake when he was in the UFC? I liked him a little bit. He had potential of becoming something that was good in the UFC.
Yeah, he wasn't a soup
But
can
then,
by any stretch.
oh yeah, but then he just did a little tumble and just couldn't recover from it. But it doesn't matter who it is. A good Brazilian jiu-jitsu practitioner versus a wrestler, 9 times out of 10, BJJ wins.
Right. He should.
Nine
Yeah,
times
he
out of 10.
should.
Nine
I
times
mean,
out of 10.
It's not like I almost feel like we're overlooking Ellenberger's BJJ because it's not like he's bad.
Right. Yeah. No. Not to say he's bad at all. Yeah.
A fucking monster.
Yeah. He's Ellenberger has always focused more on the wrestling side of it and included the grappling because it's part of wrestling, and then done a little bit of BJJ because he was an MMA fighter and he tried to be fairly well rounded. That being said, Checo has never had to worry about MMA, so he's never had to stop doing his jiu-jitsu conditioning or his wrestling for striking work or for pad work in, something that wasn't going to relate directly to a gi transition or a no gi transition for him. So I think it mainly is the experience in this situation. We're taking a pair of grapplers. One of them has grappling in jiu-jitsu experience. One of them has grappling in the wrestling experience. And we're putting them kind of somewhere in the middle. But it still heavily favors the BJJ guys.
Yeah. Like Ellenberger could take him down, and next thing you know, he's tapping out, and he doesn't even know what happened.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that's how good Checo is. Like ow, something hurts really bad. And then he got me in some sort of crazy BJJ toe lock. Like I don't know how it happened, but
I think you're right. We're definitely underplaying his BJJ, but at the same time, it's hard to go from that pro MMA transition to a straight grappling jiu-jitsu submission game, because you're taking away a large portion of what you knew as a toolbox.
Yeah, what you conditioned yourself to do. Yeah.
It's like throwing him into a world IBJFF fucking BJJ fucking world. He's gonna get dominated because it's not his forte. However, he's always willing to caveat to that is that because we've seen him his fourth time now, he may be going to that space where he goes, you know what, this is going to be my full-time thing. So he may only be training this now, which that could help him, but it's not going to help him win this weekend.
Yeah, it's not going to save him, but it will definitely help him. And I would absolutely be very happy, just as a general fan, to hear him taking it that seriously, considering he's not going back to the UFC anytime soon. And this realistically could be a decent future for him every couple months. So, I don't know. We'll definitely
he's made his money in the UFC as long as he's been smart about stuff. Like he's like Ellenberger's headline cards. He's been mid-card. He's made some decent money in him.
Yeah, he spent his time
as long as he minded his P's and Q's. Why wouldn't you go to Submission Underground? Like, you're not getting your head caved in every couple months.
Right.
You wrestle around, and someone will catch you with something.
Right, or not.
Yeah, or not. Maybe you're the one catching somebody with something.
Right. So. And Jake
Ellenberger's always been a dude who'll step up to anybody. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think that's part of what makes it so exciting to see him making this transition into the Submission Underground world, is that there's no shortage of big name dudes, both from the former MMA world and just Submission Underground style BJJ and grappling kind of dudes with big enough names. There's realistic super fights like this that can happen every couple months, man. It can be a safer end of career phase for some of these guys.
Yeah. And Jake's a perfect dude to act, as a little bit of a gatekeeper.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think Checo needs a gatekeeper, but
I mean, if nothing else, it'd be a good springboard for Checo, I think, to put his name into the spotlight a little more.
Yeah, did you guys see me tap out Ellenberger in about 12 seconds?
Right. Well, I mean, to be fair, that's how I learned about Danielle Kelly when Cynthia Calvillo went talking all of her shit and then signed up last minute for a fucking Submission Underground match thinking that she's going to be Little Miss Badass, specifically saying she's going here to get the finish that she couldn't get in the octagon. And then Danielle Kelly's 105-pound ass took her to the ground and tapped her out in 17 fucking seconds. So Danielle Kelly is a fucking world-class badass who was introduced to the world thanks to giving Cynthia Calvillo a little plateful of shut your fucking mouth, bitch. You never know. You never know.
Yeah,
But
that's one thing I'm a little upset about this card. There's none of the lady grapplers are on this card.
no, there's
That's all right.
not.
We'll take
But-
anything. At this
but-
point. We'll take anything.
The
Don't
interesting
take it
thing
away
here,
from us, jail.
the interesting thing we've got to go for is here, though, is that our next match that we're going to talk about is kind of the evolution of exactly what we just mentioned here. We've got an MMA guy who does have a little bit of a wrestling prowess to him versus a world-class, off with his head level, fucking insane black belt BJJ practitioner here. This one, kind of the newer breed, I guess would be the appropriate phrase, compared to Checo, who is not by any stretch of the imagination an old dog in the BJJ world, but no spring chicken just the same. Then we've got the next matchup here, our co-main event for Sunday evening's Submission Underground match. The potatoes au pois, nicely stacked with a fresh aromatic steam coming off that just makes you salivate here. Richie the Boogeyman Martinez versus Austin Mr. Van Zant Vanderford. We have got an 8-0 current prospect MMA fighter versus a 10th planet Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt of epic proportions and 10th planet instructor now that travels and does coaching not only the 10th planet system, but also corners and coaches several MMA fighters as well. The Boogeyman is a just absolute problem for just about anyone. He was one of the founders with Eddie Bravo of Combat Jiu-Jitsu, where you've got this Jiu-Jitsu game that we play in Submission Underground with open hand palm strikes. No fists, no punches, no kicks, but open hand palm strikes that made things very Pride-esque in the aspect that we had. And aside from being one of the founders of Combat Jiu-Jitsu, Boogeyman is a fucking freak of freaks. Aside from being literally a 10th planet freak, a subset of just hardcore BJJ fanatics from the 10th planet system, he and his brother are actually known as the Freak Brothers because they came from the world of b-boy dancing and hip-hop break dancing into the world of jiu-jitsu. So these guys are not just black belts, not just dangerous black belts, but limber and creative and unorthodox black belts of just realistic world-breaking proportions. And then you've got Mr. Van Zant, for his credit, is 8-0 in MMO in the Bellator roster on his way to trying to make himself into something, even though he really is more known right now for being married to Paige Van Zant more than his MMA or his grappling prowess. But this is also his third time in Submission Underground. He is said himself he's starting to get the itch for this because he likes the way that it plays out and understands that this will help his overall game going into MMA as well. That's a very intelligent thing to be said from such an idiot like this, because he's fucking stupid. So, now we have to watch, will this dumb neck tat rockin' grappler be able to hold his own against one of the most flexible, dangerous BJJ practitioners the 10th planet system has ever unleashed on the world? To give credit,
Was that a question?
well, to give
Can I
credit,
answer that for you?
to give credit where credit is due, I will say this: Austin is strong as fuck. He will not be manhandled. That being said, he's also very muscle bound. And if you've seen some of these grappling matches go through, muscles will only get you so far. Raw strength will only carry you so far. You have to have the finesse to make a stop if you want to win. And Richie is quite literally known for grabbing his leg and throwing it around himself or pulling it from underneath an opponent to create an unorthodox rubber guard that no one has even seen before. And then you've got his opponent who is a no-neck having thick boy. So, I mean, there's always the 1 in a million chance, but I think that's quite literally all Mr. Van Zant has in the situation is a 1 in a million chance.
Yeah. I mean, you can go to the does size matter thing, and you go back and watch anybody who fought Hoist Gracie back in the day.
No shit.
Hoist Gracie was littler than almost anybody, and they would sit there and try and punch him out. They would sit there and try and power him down, and every single one of them for years tapped. Every single one of them. Didn't matter what their game plan was. With a BJJ guy that knows that much about BJJ, it's just you're in a losing fight from the start. Like if you could catch him and knock him out, that's one thing. You have no option on this one. I hope that he's taking his lessons down. He's writing. He's making notes because he's gonna get a fucking notebook full.
Right.
From Richie Martinez, like this, yeah, he's gonna be having nightmares about Boogeyman for fucking years.
Yeah, absolutely.
About what might happen to him. Like, and I like, has Mr. Van Zant talked any trash? I don't think he has. I think he knows better.
Not really. Basically, all that he said about this match is that he's excited to compete with someone so prestigious. Like, he understands how fucking infamous, I guess, really, Boogie is in this world, and that it's that level for a reason. Yeah. But on the same page, he's also, but double entendre, pun intended, wink, wink. Yeah. He has actually been spending more time making TikTok videos with his wife than he has been training for this very serious match that he has coming up in a couple days. So that whole right foot slide step thing that he's doing with his old lady, like, I get it, but maybe save that for next week.
Yeah.
Well, this is the way I look at this. I'm surprised anybody knows Boogeyman's actual name, that it is Richie Martinez.
Yeah.
Because throughout the BJJ world, you only know him as Boogeyman.
Yeah.
Or Boogie.
Yeah.
Or Boogie.
That's it. It doesn't matter. The other side of this coin, you have, well, what I would have to say is trophy husband, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's a very fair statement. That's a very fair statement.
There's a reason why it's not Paige Vanderford. Why everybody refers to him as Mr. Van Zant.
Absolutely.
Look, he is trying to pave his own way. Hats off. Credit where credit's due. He's obviously working hard for the MMA thing. He understands that this could help him. Good. All I can say is this for Austin is, at this point, he's just being a company man for Uncle Chael. Yeah, sure, I'll take one for the team because it's going to help me learn. You learn by losing. He's not going to get a fucking concussion or anything like that. Once he taps, Boogie's going to let him go because Boogie's not going to try to fucking break him.
Yeah, and it's not like this counts as a loss on his overall.
Yeah, it's not going to hurt his MMA record.
Yeah, because this is something completely different. So I mean, this is the type of thing a young fighter should do.
For this, the only person who has anything to lose in this fight is Boogie.
Yeah, and he's not worried about it.
Boogie's not worried, and he shouldn't be. Nothing against Austin. He's still learning. He's young into his career. He's a prospect for a reason. But at the end of the day, he's getting a trophy either way, whether he wins or he goes home. He goes home, there's a trophy waiting at home for him, period. I'm just saying.
Well, I think he is the trophy.
Okay, well, or either way, there's a trophy in it for him one way or another.
Yeah, she just picked the prettiest dude, the prettiest, dumbest dude she could manipulate around. And There you
Hey,
go.
whatever.
Yeah, I mean it's like if you're looking to go up and learn something, like this is exactly the type of fight you should be taking. Like you better, because you're gonna have to bury your head in the fucking books to take on Boogie. Like you,
in the long run, he's going to get to go back and watch this film over and over again after he's
yeah, this
been
is good. This is
submitted.
great for him.
And this is going to be a great learning experience. And not to mention how well it's going to help translate into his MMA game, because he's going to learn, hey, I saw this, I fucked this up, but this
is where he
might
got-
work if there was punches involved.
Yeah,
So it'll be a good learning experience. But end of the day, he goes home with the L, but
Yeah.
still ends up as a trophy.
I mean, I think it's RJ. What do you think, man? Being a trophy husband yourself.
Thank you. Really feel good. Okay, so let's take the 10th planet thing out of the situation, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter where, what team, what camp Buggy is fighting from. That does not matter, because you have the end all be all, like, most wanted matchup ever. Gracie Barra, which is one of the best. Oh God, no! Don't do it, computer. Don't do it.
You're
Is
all
it
right
getting
now.
better? Fuck
Yeah,
yeah.
you're good now.
Okay, so at one end, you have Gracie Barra, which is considered one of the end-all be-all best BJJ school ever, versus 10th Planet, which is turned into one of the best to compete with Gracie Barra. And this is one of the most, like, sought after things ever. So if you take both of those away from the equation, the skill, flexibility, and just holy what the fuck of Boogie versus from Austin. Like, nothing against Austin, he does good in Bellator, but this is a whole nother breed where this is Boogie's life. You're just hanging out. You're just off in the corner, just watching in the club, while you're watching Boogie fucking go in on the dance floor. You have not away from it. Point blank period. Fuck you, internet. Why?
RJ Prime, roll out. Sorry, I couldn't help myself.
It happens sometimes. It happens
This
sometimes.
is RJ. Bring me energon.
Right?
Anyway,
Oh, kids these days.
Must find the life.
Right?
He's got too much. He's got too many TikToks running in the background.
Yeah, too much going on. That Chatterbeat feed, I told him, was going to be a death of him. But
What happens when you want to follow Mr. Van Zandt?
right. But
I mean, he's making a really good point. That,
yeah, no, he absolutely is. It absolutely very much is a good representation, I feel, of the 10th planet breaking in and trying to establish himself.
I'm trying to keep up with the 19th thing. Yeah.
So, sure.
You might want to restart your router.
There he is.
Yeah, my computer hates me.
Yeah.
I did this
Seems that way.
yesterday. I did this yesterday too.
But, yeah, I mean, you made very good point. Very good point. That he's walking into something. And he knows that he's in over his head with this guy. Like there's no question. He knows that he's in over his head with this guy. But I mean, it's a learning experience, and I mean, why wouldn't you take it? You got a chance to roll with a master.
Right, yeah,
Why wouldn't
that's
you
for
take
damn
it?
sure.
Like, yeah, sure, I'm gonna get twisted up and it's gonna hurt for a minute, but
It'd be a cool
I
story
get to,
later.
I
If
get
nothing
to, I
else.
get to, I get to see up close what this dude does.
Right? Yeah. That's what I said. It's gonna be a great story later on, regardless.
Yeah.
Can we
Like
make a
TJ's got a similar story where he rolled with one of the Gracies and the dude tapped him out like 10 times. But doesn't fucking matter. You can roll with the Gracie.
Right?
yeah?
You learn from it.
Absolutely.
I want to know. Can we make a prop bet here? I have a feeling that there's a possibility that we could see a twister out of Boogeyman.
That actually
Do
is.
Twitter, I'll PayPal you $10.
That actually is a pretty good chance because he really, really loves those weird fucking twists like that, and the twister is definitely an off-brand, if for lack of a better term,
And
hard twist.
I'm just saying, between him and Eddie Bravo, that's a hot fucking topic, especially after Thug Nasty shot him out after his last tap-out victory.
Very true. Very true.
I'm just saying, it'd be a good way for Austin to learn it. He wouldn't have to watch YouTube videos then.
Yeah.
This is true. This is very true.
Like, wait, what's going on?
How come I'm looking at you?
Right. But that being said, that will bring us into the 38-ounce tomahawk, beautifully reverse seared, medium rare hunk of deliciousness that is our main event of the evening. The crown jewel of Submission Underground 13, possibly, no stretch of the imagination, the most single anticipated grappling match of our lifetime, realistically. For those of you who don't know, there are 3 men currently vying for the top of the grappling world as far as competition goes internationally. That is Gordy the King Ryan, that is Craig Jones, and that is Vinny Magalhaes. Now there's a three-peat going on here that I'm going to use Uncle Chael's own phrasing to describe. So there's 3 men vying for the top. There's Gordon Ryan, there's Vinny Magalhaes, and there is Craig Jones. Now Craig Jones has already beaten Gordy Ryan. But Vinny also, Gordy beat Craig. I apologize, I fucked that all up. It was going to be cool. I'm going to go fucking throw it out the window because I can't do it like he did. Watch Uncle Chael's clip about this. There's 3 men vying for the top. Gordy Ryan beat Craig Jones. But Vinny Magalhaes beat Gordy Ryan. So the only hope that Craig Jones has to stay in that argument for the best of the best right now is to beat Vinny, because then it keeps the cycle rotating. Craig Jones is a cheetah print wearing Danaher Death Squad monster, world renowned leg locker. The problem is that Vinny Magalhaes is also a world caliber leg locker who has, as if from a movie, created supervillain style, turned away from the leg lock system to the extent now that his favorite catchphrase to rile guys like Craig Jones up is that leg locks don't work. This coming from a world-class black belt who specialized previously in leg locks, saying this to a current world-class black belt who does specialize in leg locks currently. These 2 gentlemen are at the top of the stack and have never so much as shaken hands somehow. They were competition to Submission Undergrounds ago in one of the tag team jiu-jitsu competitions that we were all very excited to see until we actually got to see it. And Craig Jones, like a weird Hollywood movie, just stuck his hand out and never left the fence, never tagged in through 3 rounds of tag team jiu-jitsu. So we didn't get to see what Craig was capable of. We've seen Vinny plenty of times now. Submission Underground, he got in there. He tagged in. He wrestled Nicky Rod. It was fucking great. It was a hell of a setup. And then Submission Underground 12, Craig Jones came back and went in against Kevin Casey and showed that he can hang with a fucking strong dude, and still ended up catching Kevin Casey because his jiu-jitsu skills were too fucking good. But that was against another wrestler. That wasn't against another leg lock guy, another world-class BJJ black belt guy. So they said, you know what? Enough's enough. This one's for the fans. This one's for the people. This is to see who's the best around. Nothing's going to bring him down. See? That's what we get here. We get the best of the best in the grappling world. 2 guys who understand each other's styles intimately without ever having come in contact with each other somehow until this point. In multiple dozens, literal dozens, plural, tournaments, these two have never so much as fucking been faced off against each other and made it to the top of the stack. And we get to see the determining match between the two of them thanks to Uncle Chael. And this one, for all the praises, and believe me, I could fucking, no bullshit, go on for half an hour just on the praises of these 2 gentlemen. I cannot tell you which one of them is the better one. This is not a situation where I'm telling you who I think is going to win. I just want to tell you people about this fucking match. It's that big. I don't know who the fuck is going to win. I really don't. I'm just excited that it's happening.
Mm-hmm. I mean, when you got 2 people that are fairly even, I have to go with Cheetah Print. Like that's my casual assessment. Besides the fact that
I can understand that.
He's pretty awesome. But I mean, this one is, it's right down the middle. It's like it could go either way, and you know Craig Jones is going for, he's going for leg locks.
He wants Vinny's ankle to take home as a fucking trophy so bad.
He does, but I mean, these are quite literally 2 of the best. Like one of them is holding like a universal title, and the other one's holding the world championship. Like
basically, yeah, that's exactly
like,
this is.
Who's taking home both the belts? Well, neither of them, the belts aren't on the line, but it's still gonna be fun to watch.
Right.
So I mean,
the
this
stature of title.
Yeah, just this is bragging rights, and these 2 are gonna go all out. And
yeah.
They're gonna do it. They're gonna do it in a grain silo somewhere in Portland, undisclosed location in Portland.
In a fucking octagon.
It's gonna
in
be
an
awesome.
octagon in a grain silo somewhere, and it's gonna be literally for the fans, and that's all you can really hope for as a fan. This isn't getting put on for money. This isn't getting put on for publicity. This is quite literally 2 dudes, a referee, and fucking Uncle Chael in a grain silo somewhere for the fans.
Yeah, it's gonna be amazing. This is good. Like if you follow the BJJ side of MMA, like this is going to be as good as it gets. Like you're going to see chess.
Yeah, this is absolutely physical chess with dire consequences.
Yeah, and yeah, I'm this is the one that, I mean, thank you to both of these guys for actually being willing to do this fight in a grain silo in fucking Portland. So.
Yeah, no shit. Right? This is beyond
like
unorthodox.
two of the biggest names in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in the world are going to go into a grain silo in Portland and grapple with each other for our entertainment. And like, not much money on the line. There's not a lot of money. There's not a lot of money for this payout. It's just 2 dudes.
Yeah.
2 dudes who want to see who's better.
For the prestige.
Thank you. Yeah. And for us.
Yeah.
For us, because they know we've got nothing. The draft's over now. It's
all said and done. Allegedly, it will be Saturday.
Allegedly.
Anyway.
Yeah.
It will be Saturday anyway.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm excited. I can't wait to see this.
You know,
I'm going Cheetah Print though.
Okay.
I'd say for me, this is definitely a toss-up. However, I do have a hard time picking against Craig Jones after the way he handled himself in Submission Underground 12 that we just watched here a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
With the amount of power that he was dealing with and how many times he was denied before he finally persevered. Like
Kevin
honestly
Casey didn't make it easy. That's for damn sure. Kevin Casey gave him every fucking bit that he could handle. It was legit. Yeah. It was very impressive.
That's why I have a hard time picking against him. However, looking at Vinny though, Vinny's otherworldly compared to Kevin Casey, in my own opinion.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
And when you're going with a guy who is formerly known for the same thing that Craig Jones is known for lately, Vinny knows everything on how to stop every one of those, as does Craig Jones. Because when you specialize in something, you know what the counters to it are. This is going to be an excellent chess match when it comes to this, because if it's your bread and butter, you know what the counters they're going to throw, and you know how to flow that into something else, but at the same time, they both know the same things.
Yep.
So
how are you going to set up the setups?
The irony in this for me is I don't think we're going to see a leg lock out of either one of them.
I'm inclined to agree.
If the opportunity presents itself, he's going for it.
Don't get me wrong. If
consequences be damned.
Yeah.
But I don't think that we see a finish by leg lock by either one.
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure there's going to be an attempt at some point. I agree with you. I agree 100%. Somebody's going to reach for a leg.
But no chance in hell that they finish with a leg lock, in my own opinion. I think this goes a completely different route. Which route? I have no earthly fucking idea because of the way these two guys are. But I'm saying it's going to be interesting, but I'm having a hard time picking it Jones just purely on what we've seen out of him recently. But then again, we didn't get a watch of Vinny the other week, so we don't know where he's at currently. He could be 10 steps ahead at this point, and fucking chess matches just started and it's already over and we don't know it.
Right.
I mean, but I'm going to call it a coin flip, but I still think this is going to be one of the greatest grappling matches you will ever see. I mean, you're not going to see the flashy boogie stuff out of this one.
Yeah, not from these two.
But it's going to be very intricate, and if you're new to grappling, this is one to watch because you're going to see some things
this would be a tutorial.
It's going to be it's for lack of better terms, it's going to be a learning experience to you. So if you haven't watched grappling before or BJJ or anything of this nature, please tune in. If not for the whole card, for this one alone.
Yeah, look it up on YouTube later.
Yeah,
Uncle Chael's nice enough to put videos up.
Yeah, I was gonna say it'll be out there afterwards if you can't catch it in the moment. Absolutely.
Oh, and the other reason to tune in, you get to listen to Uncle Chael for probably an hour and a half, 2 hours while they go through all this, and that's good enough reason.
That's gold. Yeah, that's gold unto itself.
Is my internet okay?
For the moment.
For the time being.
So far, so good.
Awesome.
Go for it, man. Talk quick.
So, as TJ said, they know each other's styles through and through. Being somebody that goes for leg locks versus somebody that knows everything about the setup and the counter for leg locks, you know fucking everything. So I think there's going to be a fuckload of attempts, but they're just going to get shut down left and right. At the end of the day, what it's going to come into is the setups. I'm going to set this up and go to this and go to this, and the fucking mentality stepping into it. Whoever has the best fucking mentality, whoever feels the best is fucking there that day, 100%, and whoever can set the best setups after something that takes it. Point blank period. I've done very little grappling, and I'm okay grappling. I'm not fucking great by any stretch of the imagination, but that's what's going to come down to at the end of this.
I agree. I think, and I agree with you as well, TJ, in that it's hard to pick against Craig Jones, and I have to bring it back to this. Were we seeing him come in this weekend against anyone but Vinny, I would 100% be inclined to agree. Vinny, for my money, is the kryptonite to the top of the BJJ world because he knows all the ins and outs and has sort of learned everything and then forged his own way, very Eddie Bravo-esque, for lack of a better comparison. He knows the leg lock world. He knows what Craig wants to do, and he's going a different direction with it despite that. So I think were it anybody else, I would have Craig Jones down 100%. At this point, I'm hesitant to make a pick, but in making one, I will say I think Vinny's going to be his kryptonite here. I think Vinny knows enough to not only make this interesting, but to make him pay for what he's going to try and do in being the leg lock guy that he is. But the great thing about this is that there's no telling. The only way to know how this is going to shake out is to tune in Sunday to Submission Underground 13 and watch for your goddamn selves. Or just wait till like Monday when Uncle Chael puts it all back up on YouTube for you. But either way, it's going to be live Sunday night and it's going to be a good time. So if you get the chance, I strongly encourage every one of you to catch it. It's going to be a good time. But that's what we've got for this particular episode here. So before we get out of here, I want to run around real quick and thank these fine folks who have come with me to do some shit talking, to have a little shenaniganery, to give you folks a little something to tune into this weekend here. So if at this point the internet's going to be kind enough to us to find out, how would folks get a little more RJ Prime in their life if they need it after this?
Gas gets, man. Okay. Fucking cunt. You can always find me on Instagram at RJ__vapes. And there's 2 underscores because somebody already had RJ Vapes and RJ_vapes. So that's an answer to Fresh for the last time I was here. And RJMA Mitchell. You can catch me over there. I'm still trying to get time to edit some videos together so I can post a string of videos. Catch me over there, talk some shit, and thank you for having me, Meter.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for being here, brother. So, with that being said, at this point, if somebody wants to try and, I don't know, say allegedly get some inside information about where in the PNW would be the best place to look for a corn silo that might house an underground grappling match, how would they be able to get in touch with you for a clue or two, Fresh03?
They can find me at youtube.com/fresh03. There's a lot of grain silos. There's a lot of grain silos down in that area. It's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough to figure out where Uncle Chael's hiding, folks. Yeah, I think I gotta figure that he's just got his own ranch. That Uncle Chael's just got his own ranch out there, and he's got an octagon hidden in one of his grain silos. He's probably got hundreds on the property.
Right.
This is how my imagination pictures it. Just hundreds of grain silos on this property, and there's one, and you have to find that 220. You have to find that 220 power cable run into it.
Right.
That's how you figure out where Uncle Chael's hiding everybody. So, join me Sunday afternoon in the greater Portland area, which is a large area. We'll be rolling through trying to find out where Uncle Chael's corn silo is. But if we can't find it, we can always just find it on the UFC Fight Pass. Or, like I said, Uncle Chael is always nice enough to upload these fights after they happen. So he's a great American. He's a great American.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much for your time, sir. Much appreciated. And as if they hadn't by now, if this point in the game somebody just cannot live without some cheese curds and combat sport conversation, how are they going to be able to get in touch with you, Mr. Golf Tee?
Wednesday nights, right here on the YouTubes, 9:30 Central Time. That's 10:30 out east and 7:30 for you bastards on the West Coast. Everywhere else in the world, figure it out. I'm only giving U.S. times because I don't know the rest of the fucking time. Yeah. And of course, here every Thursday night, and whenever else we get a chance to talk shit, you can also find me on the Instagrams because I'm glad to do that as well. 'Cause God knows we can talk more kicky punchy things with the current state of the union. I'll gladly talk kicky punchy things, and if you feel like you want to kicky punchy with me, let me know. Let's meet up somewhere. Let's do it, because man, I'm fucking bored right now.
I'm a couple hours away from you. Let's do this.
Kiki Punchy in the park.
Right? We're almost there. We're
RJ,
almost
you
at
don't
that
want none of this. You don't
Oh,
want none of this.
I want all of that.
RJ's just about to find out why you don't fight a dude who's seasoned.
I want that beard in my face.
You just better eat your fucking Wheaties, son.
Oh, I eat nothing but Wheaties.
Kids these days, I tell you. But that being said, we're going to wrap this up. So before we get out of here, if we give you something to giggle about, give us a thumbs up. If we entertained you for a little piece of the time that you've been locked down thanks to the Backstreet Boys, maybe subscribe. We try and do this every Thursday. But if we brought some enlightening thought into your life, if we gave you things that you didn't know about that you can appreciate, share an episode of this. We're trying to grow the damn thing. But on the opposite side of that, if we're just a couple of dipshits sitting in front of cameras talking but not knowing what the fuck we're actually saying, give us a thumbs down. We earned it and we won't dispute it. That being said, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. So if this hasn't been enough for you, I'm No Joe on all social media platforms pretty much. Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Mixer for the video game side of it, all at /I'm No Joe. And if you want to support the channel, patreon.com/I'm No Joe. But if these Instagram influencer level faces have just been too much for you to focus, head on over to anchor.fm/I'm No Joe for the all audio version of the show, distraction free. But that being said, we're going to get the hell on out of here, folks. Thank you very much for tuning in, and keep your eyes peeled because we got more in the works for you. We ain't going nowhere just yet. So we'll leave you with this thought. Don't let ignorance stop you. You can root for anything, unless you think drinking bleach is going to help stop the Backstreet Boys, in which case...
Everybody was kung fu fighting. Those kids were fast as lightning. In fact, it was a little bit frightening. How do I say goodbye to what we had? The good times that made us laugh.